Hey guys, this video is going to be about the G1W-C dash camera. If you don't know what the G1W-C means, as opposed to just the regular G1W, the C stands for capacitor, which means it has a capacitor instead of a battery. Typically, capacitors for dash cameras is better because a battery getting too hot in the sunlight could possibly get damaged or even explode. Capacitors, should last longer, recording for long periods of time. So I'm going to do a different video format with this camera. This first video is just going to be an unboxing, a walkthrough of the features of the camera and some test footage. I'm going to stay pretty objective though about the camera, and then in 2 to 4 weeks I will have a second video which will be my opinions and a actual review of the camera. So let's get started with unboxing it. So here's what the box looks like from Amazon. It's actually a nicer box than I was expecting. But here's the specs on the side of the box. High definition video camcorder. Here's some of the features. And it wasn't sealed, but so there's the actual camera. Power cable, or for the 12 volt, a little suction cup mount, a USB power cable. I'm hoping you can just use this to power the camera in your car also, but I'll have to test that out. And the manual. So here's a good look at the camera. As I mentioned before, the chrome is pretty shiny, and I'm probably going to take this apart and spray paint it matte black like I did with my Blackview. I believe that's the speaker right there, and there isn't, I assume that is for a light, I believe. That's where the power plugs in, an AV out. There's also an HDMI port right there, and you can see that little hole is to reset the camera. On the top there's a power button if you want to turn it off manually, even though it's going to power on automatically. Since this is a capacitor model, if you try to turn it on, it'll turn on, and if you watch the battery indicator, goes to 1 bar and 0 bars. So that's how long the capacitor lasts. So if you want to use this as a camera outside of your car or not plugged in, it's not going to work. You would have to get the standard version. On top there, that's the mode button that switches between video, photo, and searching your files. Then on the back you see the 2.7-inch LCD, up and down buttons, a record button, which, again, when you plug it in or power it on, it starts recording automatically, so you don't need that unless you want to stop. And then that is also a mode button. Or no, you know what? That's the mode button, and that is the menu button. So the last thing is the memory card slot. I actually don't have it in this right now, but I'm going to go ahead and plug this in. Gives you a little welcome screen. So as you can see, it's it's not recording automatically because there's no memory card, but up there would be a red dot that would start blinking. So if you hit the menu button, you can switch resolution, loop recording. So this says 2, 3, or 5 minutes. Resolution is 1080p, 720, and 60 or 30. W, VGA, and VGA. I believe that's wide dynamic range. Exposure, motion detection, which is just on or off. Record audio is on or off. Date stamp. G sensor, that does give you some settings. And then there's another menu, date, time, beep sound. I turned the sound off because personally I don't need sounds going off as I'm clicking buttons. The language actually was Chinese when I got this, so I had to click through the buttons or the menus, to find the ABC icon, and I figured that's how you switch it, but I just found it strange that this was shipped from Spytech and fulfilled, or sold by Spytech, fulfilled by Amazon, shipped from the US, but it still came in Chinese by default. So this is a TV mode for whether you're NTSC or PAL. There's a frequency, a screensaver, which I would recommend you just have it as low as possible, because when you're driving you don't want that. You don't want the screen on the whole time. There is an IR LED. I suppose that thing in the front is the IR, not a flash. Or car plate, you can actually switch your display on the bottom to have your license plate. That way, for insurance purposes, you could, prove that this video, I guess, was your video. I guess I don't see why that would be really necessary, because just the video evidence alone should prove that it was a recording of the accident. There is a format for the SD card, which I don't have in there. Default settings and version. So overall, it's pretty nice that you have all of this at your hand, as opposed to the Blackview. You have to download the app to your smartphone, or you have to do it on your computer and then save the settings to your Blackview. And the Inav is similar, except the Inav, there's no smartphone app, so you have to do it from your computer no matter what. So overall, I think it's so far seems like a decent setup. It's pretty compact, and I'll show you some footage. One thing I wanted to note about this camera is, for one, it does use a non-standard connector, so it's not like the Inov or Mobius that just has a little stand with a standard 1/4 inch screw mount for cameras. But my main issue so far, just after the first day of using it, as of recording this video, is when I stick this in the window of my Civic, it doesn't actually bend down far enough to have the camera pointing down. And typically you don't want the camera pointing straight or up at all, because you don't want to get the sky into the picture at all. So right off the bat, my camera is actually pointing slightly up, and that is as low as it will go. So I might have to just alleviate this with the brightness settings, but any Civic owners out there, or anyone with sports car or something with a very low angle windshield, it is worth noting that you might have an issue with the provided mount. I know there is a Rearview mirror mount available from gearbest.com, I believe it's called. So it looks like a bicycle mount, and it looks like the bicycle mount I have. It looks almost the exact same, except it has this connector on it, so you can mount this almost directly behind your Rearview mirror, and maybe with that I wouldn't have that issue, and it's going to make it more hard to see. But that's just something I had to put in my initial impressions, and I will likely mention this again in the full in-depth review.